January 24th, Apple Computer will introduce Macintosh. And you'll see why 1984 won't be like 1984.
Wait. Let me tell you something.
All right.
Let me tell you something. Wait. Sorry.
Society is not fair, but people are made to believe and play it like it is fair. What I mean by that is, growing up, many of us were told stories by the institutions of our society that if we followed all the rules and guidelines, were good little boys and girls, we would one day lead happy and fulfilling lives with all of the trappings associated. But in reality, the meat of the population, the so-called middle class, seems to have gotten the short end of the stick, while a small percentage of the population disproportionately reaps most of the rewards.
What is it about society that disappoints you so much?
Oh, I don't know. Is it that we collectively thought Steve Jobs was a great man, even when we knew he made billions off the backs of children? Or maybe it's that it feels like all our heroes are counterfeit. The world itself's just one big hoax. Spamming each other with our burning commentary bullshit masquerading as insight. Our social media faking as intimacy. Or is it that we voted for this? Not with our rigged elections, but with our things, our property, our money. I'm not saying anything new. We all know why we do this, not because Hunger Games books makes us happy, but because we want to be sedated. Because it's painful not to pretend. Because we're cowards. Fuck society.
Well, today's topic is how to remain anonymous on the internet. The U.S. makes it somewhat more challenging to be to anonymous because we have the NSA who has their fingers into every transaction, every packet that traverses the internet. Pegasus is this notorious cell phone hacking software. Every message that you send on your phone, all your geolocation services, every message you send becomes captured by the intelligence agencies. Big data farm where they put all the data in there and they can basically trace they can trace anybody. The other thing that I find with a lot of people is that they believe that the only way to trace them is through their IP address. So there's this fixation on being able to hide their IP address. There's other ways of tracing your identity other than your IP address. So if all you're focused on is hiding your IP address, you're going to be exposed by both the commercial interests and the law enforcement and intelligence agencies. So you have to think about all of the different ways that somebody can trace you. And that's why one of the things that I emphasize is that if you want to remain anonymous and safe, you need to understand forensics. You need to understand OSN. So if you understand both of those fields and you understand then what people can do to find you and find your information, then the better off you are in being able to hide your identity and your traffic.
Are you saying that that VPNs are like all these VPN adverts are wrong? You know, if I get a VPN, I'm safe.
Now, in general, most people who are navigating the internet are not thinking about anonymity. And basically, they're giving away all of their information about their entire life to commercial interests like Facebook or Google and others. If you're using Chrome, which is a great browser, by the way, Google makes a really good browser, and I really love Chrome, but it's constantly sending back all your personal information back to Google headquarters. If you ever using Chrome, open up, say, Wireshark while you're using Chrome. And what you'll see when you're using Wireshark is that Chrome is constantly communicating back to Google headquarters everything that you're doing. They're constantly sending back information on you. So when you get an ad, you go, gosh, that's amazing. I was just thinking about buying that. How did that pop up on my screen? Well, that's no mystery because they not only are they sending back information about you, but remember, we're living in the era of artificial intelligence. And artificial intelligence is not only looking at what you're searching for, but they're trying to create a mind map of you. So what they're doing is that they're saying the person who is doing these types of searches is likely the next thing they're going to want is this, because that's the pattern that we understand from looking at billions of people in the world, that with these characteristics, they're going to want this. And they can actually anticipate your needs and send you an ad for it. There's other things that can also be captured. Like, for instance, there's whenever you visit a website, you're presenting these cookies that are in your browser, right? So if there's any cookies in your browser, they are going to appear, and that cookie has identifying information. Cookies are a lot of information. For those of you who aren't familiar with cookies, cookie is basically a text file that has information about who you are and what your interests are. It may actually include things like your username and password.
Ever feel someone watching you? Like you just know they're staring even if you're not looking at them?
Comments are still headed.
What else is on?
Yeah, let's see what else is. Coming to you now from the largest studio ever constructed, it's The Truman Show!
Yeah!
Good morning!
Good morning!
Oh, and in case I don't see you, good afternoon, good evening, and good night.
What if?
No scripts, no cue cards.
Morning, Spencer. How's it going?
What if you were watched every moment of your life?
How many cameras you got there in that town?
5,000.
I believe Truman is the first child to have been legally adopted by a corporation.
That's correct.
Brilliant.
What if everyone you knew was pretending?
Hi, honey. Look what I got at the checkout. Dishwasher safe.
That's amazing.
What if your world was make-believe?
Cue the sun. While the world he inhabits is counterfeit.
I'm not allowed to talk to you.
That's how I look. Not your type. There's nothing fake about Truman himself.
What if you didn't know it? Until now.
A lot of strange things have been happening. Stand by ring cam.
Is he looking at us?
Does he think he knows? I think I'm mixed up in something. Something big. Oh. We accept the reality with which we're presented.
Everybody's pretending, Truman. Get out of here. Come and find me. Truman? Truman!
Truman! Anything happen?
No.
You may find yourself in another part of the world.
Feels like the whole world revolves around me. Everybody seems to be in on it. I'm going away for a while.
You may tell yourself, this is not my beautiful wife. You may ask yourself, how did I get here?
I'm not in on it, Truman, because the last thing that I would ever do is lie to you.
Fade up music. That's our hero shot. He's gone.
Okay?
Yes!
Want to do it again?
No!
Find him. Truman, where are you going?
You can do it.
How do we stop him? Give me some lightning.
Is that the best you can do?
Cut transmission! I like your pen. I was wondering that myself.
Jim Carrey. The Truman Show. Watch what happens.
So this video is all about the fear of being watched and paranoia and the compulsions we engage in as a reaction to that fear, that belief that we're being watched.
If so, you might be suffering from social phobia. Social phobia is also known as social anxiety disorder. It is the third most common mental illness in the US and usually begins in mid-teen years. How do you know about social phobia? People with social phobia suffer from a deep fear of being judged by others. They often spend time thinking about what they may have said wrong. They feel uncomfortable meeting new people. They may even avoid situations where they might be the center of attention. And all of these cause negative impacts, such as low self-esteem, a lack of confidence, and trouble being assertive.
This is Albert. Albert is a 26-year-old single man from Western Pennsylvania. Albert lives with his parents, is an only child, and works at a nearby assembly plant. Albert believes that he's the star of a reality TV show, filmed by cameras implanted in his eyes. He thinks the people in his life are actors working together to keep the truth from him. One day, Albert heads to the United Nations in New York City to seek asylum from this show. At the UN, a guard stops Albert at the gate, so Albert throws a punch at the guard and is taken to Bellevue Psychiatric Hospital. No one knew it at the time, but Albert was the first patient to be diagnosed with the Truman Show delusion.
As culture and society changes, the content of delusions change, and today's delusion is tomorrow's headline. My name's Joel Gold. I'm a psychiatrist here in New York City. The Truman Show delusion is something that I observed while working at Bellevue Hospital here in the city over the course of a few years in the 2000s.
The world is full of inequality. There's racial inequality, gender inequality, health, education, political inequality, and of course, economic inequality. Some people are rich and some people are poor, and it can seem pretty impossible to fix.
Well, maybe not. So there are two main types of economic inequality: wealth inequality and income inequality.
Global wealth today is estimated at about $260 trillion and is not distributed equally. One study shows that North America and Europe, while they have less than 20% of the world's population, have 67% of the world's wealth. China, which has more people than North America and Europe combined, has only about 8% of the wealth. India and Africa together make up almost 30% of the population, but only share about 2% of the world's wealth. These 10 people represent everyone on the planet, and they're lined up according to income. Poorest over here and richest over here. This group represents the poorest 20%. This is the second poorest 20%, the middle 20%, and so on. If we distributed $100 based on current income trends, this group would get about 83 of those dollars. The next richest group would get $10, the middle gets $4, the second poorest group would get $2, and the poorest 20% of humans would get $1. According to Milanovic, in 1820, the richest countries in the world, Great Britain and the Netherlands, were only 3 times richer than the poorest, like India and China. Today, the gap between the richest and poorest nations is like 100 to 1. The gaps are getting bigger and
This is the airfield for private jets at Düsseldorf Airport. Entrepreneur Christoph Gröner is one of Germany's super rich. People who have a lot of say in this country but are rarely heard in public. Gröner is worth millions in private assets and company shares. All of it self-made.
Let's say you have 250 million, you could throw it out the window and it'll come back in through the door. You can't destroy it. You can buy cars and they go up in value. You buy houses and real estate is worth more. You buy gold and the gold prices go up. You can't destroy money by consuming.
We've been following Christoph Gröner for 6 months. Through him and many others, this film takes a look at inequality in Germany. At first glance, Germany is a rich and powerful country, full of opportunities. But if you look closely, you'll see wealth is more unevenly distributed here than in just about any other industrialized country. Success often depends on your background. Why is that? Do the differences threaten social cohesion and democracy? To find some answers, we go around the world and speak to a Nobel Prize winner and other experts who have looked deeply into the issue of inequality.
The world is at a crossroads today.
People sense that the control of their nation is being stolen from them.
Inequality is the most pressing social problem facing us today.
Welcome to the land of inequality.
Dynastic wealth means a lot of money that gets transferred down through generations, because that starts to stabilize systems of inequality across society, and that constricts the opportunities available to everybody else.
Christoph Gröner may have worked his way to the top, but even for him, there's still a glass ceiling. You can't buy your way into the world of dynastic wealth. You can only be born into it. Christian Freiherr von Bechtolsheim traces his family tree back to the year 1135. He's a descendant of the Fuggers, one of the richest families of the Middle Ages.
You can always use a winch to pull in the deer. When you've killed a stag, which normally weighs well over 100 kilos, then you need mechanical help to get it into the vehicle. It would look a bit odd when you drive around towing a dead deer in a trailer. People sometimes find that a little strange.
The car he uses to transport dead stags is an old Austrian military vehicle. Von Bechtelsheim uses it in the 300 hectares of forest he owns somewhere in central Germany. We're not allowed to say exactly where. That was his condition for letting us film him. Discretion is everything.
Owning a forest is a wonderful feeling, because you have the run of it, so to speak.